Time for some horror. The most terrifying found footage horror ever made. Let's freaking go.
A news crew went into abandoned train tunnels under Sydney in 2007 to investigate why the government suddenly cancelled a major water project. Two of them came back out. The other two didn't. The movie's called The Tunnel, and it came out in 2011, and you've probably never heard of it, which is weird because it has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and gets regularly mentioned in scariest found footage ever made lists. The reason nobody saw it is because the filmmakers gave it away for free, not as some marketing stunt that they would undo later, but they genuinely just released it on BitTorrent and told people to share it. It made it as hard as possible to make money off this thing. They funded it by selling individual frames of the movie for $1 each. Literally one frame. 1/24th of a second of footage for $1 and raised around 135 grand that way. Then they made the movie, put it online, and watched it get buried under every other horror movie from that year that actually had a marketing budget, which is unfortunate because The Tunnel does everything those other movies try to do, except it actually works. The main reason it works is because it doesn't feel fake. They filmed in real abandoned tunnels under Sydney, actual World War II bunkers, and service corridors that most people in the city didn't even know existed.
Wait, so it's kind of like Paranormal Activity then? Like they made a movie so it looks like it was like filmed as on tape? Those type of movies is pretty good. I watched recently one about the catacombs in Paris.
The government used to store water down there, and during the war, people hid in those tunnels during air raids. And according to this movie, something else is living down there now. The whole thing is framed as a documentary about what happened. You're watching interviews with the survivors cut together with the raw footage that they shot underground. So you know going in that some of them die. The movie just doesn't tell you who, or how, or when. You're just watching four people with cameras walk into those tunnels, making jokes, and in the back of your head, you're trying to figure out which one makes it out. Here's what the survivors say happened. They went down there looking for a story about government corruption, maybe some missing homeless people, and what they found was something that's been living in total darkness under a major city for God knows how long. The government knows about it. They canceled the water project because of it.
Wait, what?
They're not telling
Is that
anyone.
what they...
In fact, this story was so disturbing that the two people still alive to tell the story, one of them quit journalism entirely. The other kept working as a cameraman, but you can tell from the interviews he's not the same person who went into those tunnels. This is the story of The Tunnel. The movie starts with what the government told everyone. Sydney's in a drought, water's running low, and hey, we've got millions of liters just sitting in these old train tunnels under the city. Perfect solution, right? Well, except the whole project gets canceled overnight. There's no explanation, no press conference,
overnight?
none. And this is where Natasha Warner comes in. She's an investigative journalist, which in 2007 apparently meant you could still convince a TV station to fund your increasingly unhinged theories about what the government was hiding. She's certain that something's down there. She's heard rumors about homeless people going missing, and she's decided the best way to prove a conspiracy is to break into
I mean, how do you know if a homeless person goes missing?
government infrastructure with a camera crew. So she brings three guys. There's Peter, the producer. He's the one who keeps reminding everybody this is probably illegal and definitely stupid. There's Steve, the cameraman, who just films everything and doesn't really say a lot. And then there's Tangles, the sound guy who got his nickname from always getting tangled in cables. Tangles is the guy who's actually excited about this. He's done urban exploration before. He thinks this is going to be fun. He's wrong. The movie does this thing where it cuts between the footage they shot in interviews with the survivors later. So you're watching them joke around and pack their gear, and then it cuts to Natasha in the present day, looking completely emotionally destroyed, talking about how none of them understood what they were getting into. They try to go in through the official entrance first. There's a security guard there who takes one look at their press badges and cameras and goes, absolutely the fuck not. Doesn't really give a reason, doesn't call a supervisor, just tells them to leave, which of course makes Natasha more convinced that she's onto something. So they find another way in, some maintenance access point that's not being watched. The second they're inside, the temperature drops and everything gets quiet. These aren't like subway tunnels with lights and signs. These are service corridors that haven't been used in decades. Water's dripping from the ceiling. There's graffiti on the walls from urban explorers who came in before, and it goes deep. What makes this setting work so well is that this movie isn't rushing it. You spend a solid 10 minutes just watching them walk through darkness, playing with the night vision camera, making jokes that get a little less funny the further in they go. The dread builds slow. They find evidence pretty quick that people were living down here, with old mattresses, blankets, and empty food containers. And Natasha's filming all of it, doing her reporter voice, talking about how this proves the homeless rumor. But the camps look abandoned. Not like someone packed up and left, but just abandoned. Stuff is still sitting there. They then find the World War II section. During the war, parts of these tunnels were used as air raid shelters. There's still old signage on the walls, civil defense instructions, and in one of the rooms there's...
Wait, they literally did that in one season of American Horror Story.
this massive bell, the kind that they would ring if there was an attack. It's just hanging there, and it probably hasn't been touched since the 1940s. And Natasha gets this idea. She wants to ring the bell, get it on camera, make it dramatic. Peter thinks this is stupid because they're trying to stay quiet. But Natasha's already got the shot in her head, so she hits it. The sound is insane. It is not just loud, but it's disorienting. The bell's been down here for 80 years, and it still works perfectly. The noise bounces off of every surface and echoes down every corridor. You can feel it in your chest watching the movie. Tangles has his headphones on, monitoring the audio, and he's wincing because the levels are completely blown out. He signals that he needs to step into the next room to get some distance and fix the recording. He grabs the boom mic and walks through this little doorway into adjoining space. The others stay in the bell room. Tash is about to ring it again when Steve, who's got the headphones now, suddenly stops her. He's listening to something in Tangle's mic feed. His face changes. He rips the headphones off and yells for Tangles. The audio cable, this thick cord running from their equipment into the next room, suddenly goes tight. Then it gets yanked hard and fast.
Wait, what was that?
It whips through the doorway and disappears into the dark, ripping free from the recorder. They're calling his name. They run into the next room, but Tangles is gone. Just completely gone. The boom mic's on the ground, and there's no sign of a struggle, no blood, no indication of which direction he went. He was there 5 seconds ago, and now he's not. This is the first moment where the movie stops feeling like documentary and starts feeling
Wait, did someone actually
kidnap
him?
Doing horror movie panic. They're doing actual confusion. They're asking questions that
it was a cable. It was a cable I saw.
Nobody knows what happened. They search for him. They're calling his name, checking every side passage, and this is where the interview framing becomes brutal. Because you're watching them look, and then it cuts to Natasha in the present, and she's listening to the audio recording for the first time. The one Tangles was wearing, and you can hear it underneath the bell noise. There's screaming. He was screaming, and they couldn't hear it over the ringing. Back in the tunnels, they decide to return to the bell room to regroup and figure out what to do. When they get back, all of their equipment is gone. The bag, the spare batteries, the tripod, everything they had left sitting there has been taken. Peter's looking around and he's trying to logic this out. Steve's got the camera up, panning across the empty room. And Natasha's starting to understand that they're not alone down here. But here's what they don't see yet. What is actually down there with them.
Wait,
they then continue and
now.
they find Tangle's equipment in the next room they checked. Not Tangle's though, just his flashlight and headset sitting in a puddle of blood. Actually, calling it a puddle doesn't really cover it. The entire room is covered with blood on the walls, blood on the floor. Some of it is still wet. It's fresh enough that you can see it dripping. And there's meat, chunks of something that used to be part of a person, just scattered around. The camera doesn't linger on it, but you see
Depending on how many likes this video gets, I will watch this video with your chat on. I don't know if I can watch it on stream, but I will react to the actual movie.
enough. Whatever happened to Tangles happened here, and it happened fast. Peter picks up the flashlight. It's slick. Steve's filming, but he's not saying anything. Natasha's trying to hold it together, doing her reporter thing, but her voice is shaking. This isn't a story anymore.
Understandable.
The thing about this scene is the movie doesn't try to make it more than it is. There's no music, no sudden sound effects, just 3 people standing in a room, realizing their friend is probably dead. They need to get out of here right now.
Most likely.
Except they can't figure out which way leads out because every tunnel looks the same.
This was based on a real right?
And nothing's familiar. The panic's starting to set in, the real kind, where people stop being polite and start snapping at each other. Natasha had to set down the smaller night vision camera when they first entered the blood room. She goes to pick it up and realizes it's not where she left it. It's a few feet away, facing a different direction. She rewinds the footage to see what happened. The movie never cuts away from the character's perspective. Everything you see is what they filmed, which means that they find that room full of blood and realize something has been living down there and eating people, and you're discovering it at the exact same moment they are. On the playback, the camera's just sitting there recording static darkness. Then something moves into frame. Not a person, it's pale and too tall. It picks up the camera, looks directly into the lens maybe 2 seconds, and then sets it back down and walks off. The footage is grainy night vision green and deliberately very hard to make out, but you see enough to know that's not a human. Steve watches the playback over Natasha's shoulder and just says, "We need to leave." Not panicked, but just flat. The kind of voice you use when you're trying very hard not to completely lose your mind. They start moving faster now, taking tunnels that they haven't tried yet, and that's when they hear someone else. A voice calling out. They freeze, trying to figure out if this is good news or very bad news.
Might be bad. Wait. Okay, it might be bad because if it's a voice they don't recognize, it might be a homeless guy, like a squatter there.
It's the security guard from earlier, the one who told them not to come down here. He's down here with them now.
It was him.
Around a corner with his own flashlight, sees them, and immediately starts yelling. Not angry yelling though, but scared yelling. He's telling them they need to get out immediately. He can show them the way, but they need to move now. Natasha's asking him what's happening, what's down here, why did the government cancel the water project? But the guard's not answering any of it. He just keeps saying, "We need to go, we need to leave right now."
Hurry.
He's walking fast, checking over his shoulder every few seconds. He clearly knows something they don't, that we don't. He has been down here before. Maybe he's been dealing with the situation for a while. Maybe that's his whole job, keeping people out. You can see this moment right before it happens. The guard turns into a junction ahead of them, and there's a split second where the camera catches movement in a side passage. Something big and fast. And then the guard's just gone, pulled into the dark so quickly that by the time Steve swings the camera around, there's nothing there except the guard's flashlight rolling on the ground. They hear him scream once, a short wet sound, and then silence. That's when they run. The movie doesn't do the thing where the camera cuts out or it gets too shaky to see. You're running with them, seeing exactly what they're seeing, which is mostly just darkness and tunnel walls flying past. They're not running towards anything. They're just running for their lives. Eventually they have to stop. They can't breathe and they can't run
I want to see this in a cinema. Holy God.
Lights and just sit there in complete darkness, trying not to make a sound. You can hear them breathing. That's it. No music, no ambient noise, just breathing. After what feels like forever, Peter whispers that maybe it's gone. Maybe they can move. They click on one flashlight and carefully look outside. Nothing. The tunnel's empty. They keep going, trying to retrace their steps and somehow end up at the underground lake that they had passed earlier. It's this massive cavern with black water stretching out into the dark. They're about to pick a different tunnel when they hear something, and that something is whimpering. It's someone crying. Steve then switches the camera to night vision so they don't give away their position with the lights. That green infrared view shows them what's at the edge of the water. It's the security guard. He's alive, on his knees in the shallow water, but his eyes are gone. They're not closed, but they're gone. Empty sockets. Something took them.
Wait.
He's just kneeling there, blind and crying. Before anyone can move, something steps into frame behind him. The creature. You get a clear look this time. It's tall and thin way too thin, with skin that looks wet in the night vision and long hair hanging down. It doesn't move right. It's too fast and too jerky at the same time. It reaches down, grabs the guard's head with both hands, and twists. You hear the crack. The guard's body drops into the water, and the creature just stands there for a second. Then Natasha screams, and the creature's head snaps towards them. It knows exactly where they are now, and it starts moving in their direction, crossing the water faster than anything that size should be able to move. Steve then grabs Natasha, and they're running again. Peter is right behind them. The creature is now hunting them for real now, and there's nowhere to go. But that's when they figure out their one saving grace, the one lifeline they have, the one weapon they can use to fight back. It all starts with Peter tripping and falling hard, and something grabs his ankle from a gap in the wall. It's some drainage hole that they didn't even see. The creature's got him, and he's trying to drag him through this opening that's way too small for a person. Peter's wedged in there, screaming, and Steve is the only thing he can think of. He points the camera light directly at it, and the creature lets go immediately. It makes this awful high-pitched noise and pulls back into the hole. It just retreats. Steve keeps the light on that gap for a solid 10 seconds
that's actually good.
Before Peter scrambles
They know the
away
weakness.
from it. And that was the moment they have figured out it can't handle bright light. They've got one advantage, guys. This thing's been living in total darkness probably for years, maybe longer, and direct light hurts it. Their flashlights, the camera light, that's the only reason they're still alive. But the problem is, Steve's camera battery is dying and the light's getting dimmer. They have maybe one spare battery left between all of them. They then pick a random tunnel and just commit to it with no more second guessing, and it leads them to a dead end that's been boarded up with old wooden planks, the kind that's been there so long it's starting to rot. Behind it, they can hear something, water maybe, or wind. They don't know, but it's the only option they've got. Peter and Steve tear the boards down while Natasha holds the light. When they get through, they find what has to be the creature's actual lair. There's bones in there, human bones, pieces of clothing, things it's collected. The smell is overwhelming. This is where it brings people. Steve's camera then dies. The light just cuts out. There is one flashlight left, and that's it. In that exact moment, the creature comes back and slams into Steve and Peter hard enough to knock them both down. The flashlight goes flying. Natasha grabs the small night vision camera and runs just out of pure instinct and leaves them there and runs into the tunnels. The reason this is so damn effective because you start to understand why she runs. She is not being a coward. She is panicking. The movie spent an hour making these people feel real. So when Natasha does something selfish out of pure terror, it makes sense. She is not a hero. She is a journalist who's in way over her head. She's an average person. And that average person...
Have you realized that all of this is her fault as well?
is saving their ass. This is not the real horror movie where she saves all of her friends. This is the real life situation where she lives to see another day. She's now alone with just the night vision camera, that green view of the tunnels, and through that green darkness, the creature finds her. It just appears in front of her without warning and grabs her before she can even process what's happening. The camera falls to the ground but keeps recording. You're watching from this low angle as the creature pulls Natasha away by her legs. She's fighting it, but it's not even struggling. It's just pulling her down the tunnel towards the lake. Steve and Peter heard her scream. They get the flashlight working again, find the night vision camera on the ground, and follow. By the time they reach the lake, the creature's got Natasha in the water trying to drown her. Her head's under and she's thrashing. Steve runs in with the flashlight and the creature backs off again, hissing at the light. Peter helps pull Natasha out. She's coughing up water, barely conscious, but she's alive. The creature's circling them, staying just outside the light, and Peter realizes it's waiting for the battery to die. Once they're in darkness, it's over. And that's when Peter does something that's either very brave or very stupid. He starts yelling at it, drawing its attention, waving the flashlight around, and he tells Steve to get Natasha out of here. Find an exit, he'll keep the creature busy. Steve's trying to argue, but Peter's already moved away from them, keeping the light pointed at the creature, leading it in the opposite direction. The last thing the camera sees of Peter is him disappearing into a side tunnel with that thing following him. Here's what makes this sacrifice land when so many other horror movies fail at this.
Okay.
The movie has not built Peter up as some hero. He's been scared shitless the entire time. He's the one who wanted to leave from the start. But when it comes down to it, he draws the creature away because it's the only play they have left. There's no dramatic speech. There's no "I'll love you forever, don't forget me, baby, and please don't cheat on me now that I'm dead" with our neighbor. Even though that's technically not cheating, but it's still a scummy thing to do. Don't do that, people. If that ever happens in that situation. There is no drama. He just says go, and he's gone. Steve...
Yeah, he knew they would like die anyways, so like why not do it his way, trying to make them survive? Because like either he dies or all of them die. That's basically his situation he's in now.
Gets Natasha moving. She can barely walk, but they push forward, and finally, they see electric lights ahead. Real lights. They stumble into what turns out to be a maintenance corridor that connects to an active train station. They come out onto a platform. Security cameras catch the whole thing. 2 people soaked and covered in blood coming out of a service door that's not supposed to be accessible. It's early morning. The station's almost empty. Natasha collapses. Steve's trying to explain to a confused security guard what just happened. And then Steve does something that I can't figure out. He goes back in, tells the guard to call an ambulance, and hands off the camera and goes back into the tunnels to find Peter. Natasha's begging him not to, but he goes anyway and comes back 10 minutes later, dragging Peter, who's alive,
oh, they got him.
Barely, covered in injuries, bleeding from somewhere the camera doesn't show. They get him to the platform, under the lights, and wait for help. Peter dies before the ambulance arrives from internal bleeding. There was just too much damage. The movie shows you Natasha realizing he's gone, and it's just this quiet moment where she stops trying to wake him up and sits back against the wall. The aftermath's brief. Police investigate, but close the case citing contradictory evidence, which is a code for, yeah, we're just not going to touch this. Tangles is never found. Officially, he's a missing person. Natasha quits journalism entirely. Steve keeps working as a cameraman, but you can tell from the interview segments that he is not okay. No amount of therapy is going to fix what he saw. And the government never explains what happened to the water project, never acknowledges that something is living in those tunnels. The footage exists, and the survivors are telling the same story, but officially nothing happened. But the creature's still down there. So why does this movie hit so hard when so many other horror movies try something similar and fail? Well, first, it never explains itself. Most horror movies feel the need to tell you exactly what the monster is, where it came from, maybe throw in some government lab backstory or conspiracy or ancient curse. The tunnel just says there's something in the tunnels and leaves it at that. You barely see this creature. I can't even describe very well what it looks like. It's partially pale, it's partially hairy, it's partially human.
Yeah, they basically just like described him as Slenderman so far.
That's how much you don't see. You never find out what it is. You never know how long it's been down there. The government clearly knows about it, but they're not telling anyone, and the movie doesn't force some exposition down your throat where everything gets revealed. That uncertainty stays with you after the movie ends. Second, the documentary format actually serves a purpose instead of just being a gimmick. You're watching edited footage that survivors approved to be shown, which means they've had to sit down and watch their friends die over and over again while putting this together. That adds a layer of horror that most found footage movies miss.
Wait, I didn't even think about that. Wait, that's actually like, that must be extra traumatizing, not gonna lie.
The trauma isn't just in the moment, it's in the aftermath, it's in the edit. Every interview segment with Natasha shows someone who's completely destroyed by what happened. She's not doing the typical horror movie survivor thing where she's stronger now, she's a stronger woman and empowered. I'm gonna rise against the evil journalistic forces to save the world. No, she was a dedicated journalist, it was her lifelong career, and she just quit her job and disappeared after this incident, which is something that is so human. People that are obsessed and love their jobs, if they have like a horrible experience, it can get them to like just abandon everything. Think about nurses or doctors who spend years and years in school. They deal with something that's just far too difficult for them and they have to stop. It's a very human thing to not be able to handle that level of trauma. And third, the movie trusts you that you're smart enough to be scared by what you don't see. It actually thinks you're...
I mean, okay, I haven't watched this movie, but this explanation actually makes me afraid to watch the movie. I will watch the movie, don't worry about it, guys.
An intelligent human being, which is awesome. The night vision footage of the creature is maybe like 5 seconds total of clear shots, and not even really. The rest is shadows, quick movements, and sounds in the dark. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of this movie is staring into the black abyss, which to you, that might sound like, oh, that's not that scary, there's nothing they're really filming. But your brain fills in the gap.
I think that's actually what makes it scary. Like, we don't see anything, so everything could be hiding there. Like, we're just watching the unknown.
It makes it worse than anything the filmmakers could have shown you. Remember, this movie was filmed on $135,000 or whatever. Some other number like that, whatever I said in the intro, that's the correct amount of money. They're not going to be able to make a monster look terrifying on that amount of money, but they don't need to, because your brain is always going to think the monster is the scariest thing possible.
Okay, sorry for pausing. This is just some movie talk I'm gonna do now. Most movies nowadays that cost like millions or billions of dollars sucks. They always say the movies used to be better before, back in the days. And those movies were like, they were not that expensive to make. Wasn't Paranormal Activity not even... Wasn't Paranormal Activity only like $1,000, $1,000, $10,000. So like, you don't need a massive amount of budget to make a good movie. You just have to have a good, first of all, a good idea, then a plan to like how to shoot it, and then of course the right actors and some camera equipment. Of course, they can be good movies if you have a good idea and good actors.
Because you're a little wuss. Just kidding. Our brains just do that. They always think this fear is the most terrifying thing imaginable. It's the same reason people are still scared of Jaws, even though the shark looks ridiculous.
I have not watched Jaws. I know I have not watched the movie yet.
Now, in comparison, it shows just enough to confirm the threat is real, and then lets people's imagination do the rest. And finally, this might sound stupid, but it matters. The movie feels real because it was made by people who knew they couldn't compete with big studio horror movies on budget, so they competed on atmosphere instead. They filmed in actual abandoned tunnels.
Yeah, when it comes to horror movies, atmosphere is the most important thing to make a good horror movie.
Used real World War II bunkers and had real cameramen play the cameramen, and made a creature design that would work in darkness because they couldn't afford anything more complicated. These were broke filmmakers. All of those limitations forced them to make a movie that feels uncomfortably grounded. It doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like something that actually happened. And that's why it works, and that's why it's been sitting on streaming services for over a decade, while people will literally watch Paranormal Activity sequels for the 100th time. Listen, if you're about to watch
I told you, Paranormal Activity is good.
Watch a movie tonight before you go to bed, don't turn on Paranormal Activity 27 for the 100th time. Watch this movie. You probably won't be able to sleep, but you'll be glad that you did. Thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure to give it a like and
Okay, yeah, I will not watch it tonight. I will watch it with you guys someday, okay? Don't worry about it. This was a good video. Like, I actually want to watch the movie now. What was the movie called again? Oh, it's called The Tunnel. Okay, guys, if you're interested in this movie like I am right now, like, watch The Tunnel. God, this was a great video.